In the world of homage watches, brands will often fall somewhere on the scale between value and features. How good can an homage watch be while staying affordable? And how much am I willing to pay to get the best example possible, or to have to settle with the fewest compromises? The answers are subjective, with a never-ending argument to be had. Most of us can agree that just about every homage has some sort of compromise, and in today's episode, this watch is no exception, where we compare a $100 Holuns DayDate to a $3,000 Tudor DayDate. And spoiler alert, the Holuns does not square up to the Tudor, but how close does it actually get? Is the Tudor really 30 times better as a watch overall, or does it offer 30 times more value? And what does the Holuns get right, and what does it get wrong? And lastly, does it provide value at the $100 price point? Please be sure, as always, to leave your comments and thoughts along the way. Alright, let's get into it. Starting with the measurements, you can see the Holuns is just a bit chunkier and longer. Even at a glance, you can see how everything on the Holuns is wider. There are thicker lugs, a fatter bezel, and a wider crown. And from the side, you see that extra 2.8 millimeters of thickness really makes a difference with the exhibition caseback protruding out and the thicker overall case shape. The Tudor would actually be even thinner if it didn't have the raised sapphire crystal sticking up, which is about an additional millimeter high. One thing you can't see in the video is actually how different these watches feel. The edging and finishing on the Holuns is good on its own. It doesn't feel rough, but the Tudor feels amazing. It's actually smooth at every end and edge, and the fluted bezel has an almost silky feeling to it, versus the more pronounced bumpy edging of the Holuns. And even though the Holuns has a Jubilee Link style bracelet, it rolls and folds in a rough manner, compared with the Tudor Modern Hybrid style bracelet, which flexes and bends effortlessly. And this translates, of course, to a more comfortable experience on the wrist with the Tudor. The Holuns bracelet more closely mimics the Rolex style, with the taper down from 20mm to 16mm and hidden deployant clasp style. It does have a bit too much flex when on the wrist, which actually allows for the clasp to peek out from the side. This can happen slightly with the Tudor, but not nearly as much. The Tudor also has a folded clasp with the pressure snap closure that gives it that vintage look and vibe, but rest assured, it does stay tightly secured when it is closed. And since the Tudor uses real gold that is rolled over a stainless steel core, you don't have to worry about scuffing or scratching the gold in the same way you would have to with the plated links of the Holuns. And when looking at the links from the side, you can see how the plating is only done on the surface and on the fronts of the links, with steel exposed on the sides that, I have to admit, is a bit of a turnoff to see up close. Comparing the dials, we see the beautiful champagne sunburst dial of the Holuns with gold handset and cubic zirconia hour markers held in place with a wider place setting similar to the Rolex style, and lume pips in the chapter ring that has split second indices. The Tudor dial is an elegant linen texture in champagne color, also with a gold handset and diamond hour markers, and similar lume pips and split seconds chapter ring. Lume on both watches is rather useless from a practical standpoint, as both fade really quickly. This is the biggest letdown of the Tudor, and is somewhat to be expected for the Holuns. Both watches feature a date at 3 o'clock with a Cyclops magnifier. Magnification is the same at 2.5 times, with clarity being much better on the Tudor. The Holuns date wheel is slightly misaligned, and even the Cyclops itself seems a bit off-centered when looking at the watch straight on. Branding on the Tudor dial is centered perfectly, with the gold shield logo at 12 o'clock and rotor self-winding indication above 6 o'clock. It is balanced well, and the text proportions are just right for the dial size. The Holuns features an applied gold logo at 12 o'clock with printed branding as well. However, the text at 6 o'clock seems a bit too small and a bit too high, giving it an unbalanced look. And my biggest gripe on the Holuns is the fact that the date wheel is off-center. Part of what makes this watch desirable is the day-date function, and if you're thinking maybe it's just this one, well, I thought that too, until I ordered a replacement, not once, but twice. So out of 3 watches, this was actually the best example I could find. Later days of the week are better, versus days like Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday, where the text is cut off by that day window. When we examine the Tudor, we see not only does it utilize a champagne-colored dial and date up wheel, which is a nice upgrade, but the font is crisp, clean, and perfectly spaced in the window. One of the most impressive parts of the Holuns is the fact that this movement has been modified to allow for double quickset of the date and day. Meaning, just like the Tudor, when the crown is put into position 1, you can rotate the crown one direction to change the date and rotate the crown the opposite direction to adjust the day. Many other cheaper day-date movements out there will require you to rotate the hands continuously to get the next day of the week. The function is the same on the Tudor. However, the major difference has to do with when the day and date change over. You'll see that the Tudor has instantaneous click over of both the date and day at midnight, whereas on the Holuns, the date starts to click over somewhere near 10:45 p.m. and changes at midnight, and then the day of week starts to transition around 12:40 a.m. and finally clicks over close to 4 a.m. Also, the Tudor manages to offer a 38-hour power reserve beating at 28,800 vibrations per hour versus the 40-hour power reserve on the Holuns, which is beating at 21,600 vibrations per hour. So again, 3 Hz versus 4 Hz. Accuracy of the Holuns is not that great, nor is it consistent, so keep in mind with this watch, you may have to update or correct the time at least once a week, which could be annoying for some. Compared with the Tudor, you can see a much more clear difference between how it performs with the Holuns. The Holuns does get a lot of the looks down right, even featuring etched branding in the Rayhot like you would see on a Rolex, but what it has in form, it lacks in function. Having a screw down crown but only 30 meters of water resistance was a really big bummer on this piece, as was the fact the glass is only mineral crystal. The Tudor nails form and function with 100 meters of water resistance and sapphire glass crystal. It's the perfect go anywhere, do anything watch, ready for the poolside parties one night and dressed up for formal or business events the next day. I personally think it's really clear now to see the compromises that were made with the Holuns DayDate, but the question we have to address, is it worth $100, and is the Tudor really 30 times better? I personally think that the Holuns is worth it for the $100 price point, but go for the Datejust Homage. If you have an easy return process and want to take the chance on getting a better day wheel example, maybe you'll have better luck than me. As far as the Tudor being worth it for the price, I don't personally agree that it's worth 30 times more value, but I do think the Tudor is worth its price of around $3,000. Now, I also like the fact that because these are a bit harder to get here in the States, I have a good chance to get the same amount that I paid, if not more, for it. But I'll be honest, it won't matter because I don't plan to ever sell this watch. I really hope you guys and gals enjoyed this review side by side. If you want to help out my channel, please drop a like on this video, share your thoughts. As always, may the Schwartz be with you, and I'll see you guys at the next one. Take care.